Alright, we're starting a Learn to Play Hack Trick day. Let me just mess with my zoom settings here. Alright, this is Hack Trick, a simple little abstract game, and we're going to learn to play this. It's actually a really simple game, but it comes down to a lot of math and how it plays out. Very tactical. You can think your way through it as long as you'd like to be able to get some sort of an advantage here. So in the game, you have a hand of cards. You start with 3 cards, 4 if you're the first player, but you're going to play a card to get the thing started. So he has to pick a card to get us started here. Let me turn this off so that it doesn't keep dinging like that. And what you do is you play cards one after another into the center, or you draw from the deck. You have a max hand size of 4, and it shows the number of hands in the player interface on the right. To start the round, you take all the cards, shuffle them together, put 2 discarded for the round, but they're visible. Everyone knows what cards are out and not in play, and then you deal them out. Now, once he picks a card to play to start with, there we go, it will do this thing where it tells us the sum. He has a sum of 12 in his hand, so he's got 3 cards that add up to 12. There are only a few combinations that work for that. 5, 5, and 2. 5, 4, and 3, and actually I think that's it, because all the other combinations would just be repeats of a different order. So he either has 5, 5, 2, or he has 5, 4, 3. Some of my cards is 8. Doesn't tell him nearly as much. There are a lot of different combinations that could be 8. I'm not going to list them all, but it gives you an idea of what your opponent has, which is quickly ruined because your opponent does a draw. Now he has no idea what my last card is, even if he's got an idea about the rest. And then when I am forced to play because I'm at max hand limit, he doesn't necessarily know if I played an old card or a new card. Alright, so what you do in this game is on your turn, you get this option to ask. And if I press it, it does nothing right now. You will be able to do this after capturing an opponent's marker. You have markers on your side and on their side. The only important thing to note about the markers is, other than color, there's a 2x marker. You have to click on that before playing a card. If you don't, if you just click on the card, it will play a normal marker automatically. It doesn't ask you if you wanted it to be an x2. Okay, so the way you figure out where your markers goes is you play 1 card and you add it to the previous number. So I played a 5 or a 1 right after a 5, so I get to move a marker onto the 6 onto a little tic-tac-toe looking board. Then I get to choose how to end my turn. I can pass, play, or guard. When you first start playing, you're going to use pass almost every time. You really don't want to mess around with playing guard until you start to get the hang of what they do and what you're going to be doing, because they cost you a marker. You can permanently lose one of your markers to force your opponent to play a card next turn. This only forces them to play a card if it's legal. Or you can play guard. Guard does not keep them from playing, it keeps them from using play on their turn. So if you think that you have a vulnerable hand, you might choose to guard just to make sure the next turn you have the option to draw up. Guard is by far the hardest one to learn to use, when to use it accurately, when was a waste, stuff like that. But I'm just going to pass for now and let it go around. Another thing you need to know is that you can't play duplicates. So if I try to play this 3, I have to choose a card different from the one last played. That changes things up for how to go to these different places, because I can't go to 6 and 4 and 2 by playing double 1, double 2, double 3, double 4. None of those are okay. And there is no 0 or 10 spot. You must play a card different from the last one played. Let's see here. What else do you need to know about this game? Capturing markers. So let's do a little bit of that. We're just going to play some cards until a marker gets captured. I'm sure it will eventually. Alright, well I can't capture any of this stuff right now. There we go. Now I'll be able to capture one of his things. So, I'm going to play a 2 on top of his 0. That means I need to place on the 2. But he already had a marker there from his previous turn putting a 0 on top of my 2. I capture his marker. That now gives me the ability to ask. So I'm going to force him to play. It uses one of my markers, limits how long the round can go, and then he is forced to play. Now that he has played, it comes back to me. Now, I already have a winning condition here, but I'm not really worried about the winning condition. I want to show the asking thing. I'm going to click Ask. The sum of his cards is 9. I don't really have to do any particular math. The only 2 cards with 0 to 5 that can add up to 9 is a 5 and a 4. I know exactly what is in his hand. I could use that to force him to play. Since he has a 5 and a 4, if I play my 4, I could use play, and the only thing he'd be able to do is play his 5. And then I'd know that I can follow up with my 3 or a draw or whatever. You can try to trap your opponent into a no-win scenario. That's what the skill in this game really comes down to, is being able to predict what's in their hand and trap them into a no-win scenario. Now the ways you can win are a diagonal, a column, a row, or 3 on the same spot. Yep, you heard me. You can win with 3 on the same spot. The other thing that's important is this X2 marker. I never dropped it earlier, but like I said, you can click it to toggle it and use the X2. If you use the X2 as the final drop, it will not give you 2 points. I placed a double marker, aligned 3 lines. A 2X marker was not already part of it. It was part of the final move, so I only get 1 point for the victory. If I had used my 2X marker earlier, it makes it at risk for him just to capture it. It just acts like a normal marker. Nothing special. He can still just consume it to ask. That's it. Stack 3 on one spot, get any line just like tic-tac-toe, and you win. Just add the last 2 cards. You can't play doubles. If you have an opponent's marker that you've captured, you can ask them for the sum of their hand and try to puzzle out what it is. The last thing, and this is very important, I'm a little surprised it took me this long to talk about it, is the deck composition. All of the numbers go from 0 to 5, and there are 3 of them in the deck. This means that a lot of games that I play, especially with more skilled opponents, nothing particularly clever happens until the deck starts to get low. When there's only 2 or 3 cards left in the deck, or even 1 card left in the deck, there aren't a lot of options. You can see most of the cards in the play area and the discard area and be like, okay, there's only a 5, a 4, and 2 2s left. Well, what's the sum of your hand? Oh, you have a sum of 8? Well, you have a 4 and 2 2s. That means there's a 5 in the deck. Do I want to draw the 5? Do I want to trap you into playing one of your cards? What do I want to do? Well, I get all kinds of options to think my way through and try to mathematically come up with a solution where I win automatically and there's nothing you can do about it. So that's good. That's everything you know to be able to play Hack Trick. I already have some videos showing games of this. I really do like this game. Typically I don't like abstracts very much, but this is a very math-heavy game. I've actually used this with some of the students that I tutor before, just to get them involved in playing a game, thinking logically, eliminating possibilities. It's a very thinking-driven game. I hope you've learned something, and if you want to play some Hack Trick, I'd be happy to play with you.